Good morning, Technical Comprehension. This video is for Wednesday, April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day. I really wish this all was a big April Fool's joke. I'm sure you do as well. Nonetheless, here we are on Wednesday, April 1st, and I'm just going to spend a couple minutes reviewing what was due and what is coming due, and then we'll continue in Chapter 8. So, due on Monday, that already happened, Monday, March 30th. Handful of you already submitted, handful of you have not. So I feel like we're starting to lose some people, but if you're listening to this video, odds are you're not the one that has been lost. Anyway, due Monday, March 30th, a couple days ago, but I'm saying this because in case you haven't submitted it yet, you can still submit it. I still want you to get your work in. Even if it's late, I'm still going to take it because being flexible and trying to work through a lot of these issues still. You were to have submitted the Chapter 7 vocabulary quiz. So your Chapter 7 vocabulary quiz is right down there. There's actual quiz and the Dropbox. And then there is the thesis homework link. This is where you would click on that, read the article, and then some of you have been sending it to me via Blackboard message. I've had some of you email it to me. Whatever works for you, because there's not like an actual Dropbox. You just read the article, come up with a thesis, which is the one sentence summary of the article. And then even previous to that, last Friday, you were turning in your Chapter 7 text sheet. So essentially, just make sure you have all of Chapter 7 turned in. We are done with Chapter 7 completely at this point. So if you have not turned in your Chapter 7 vocabulary quiz, your thesis homework, your Chapter 7 text sheet, please do so as soon as you can so I can kind of keep up with the grading and make sure that all the grades are reflected and in there. So today we are going to continue in Chapter 8. So let me click on Chapter 8 here. And I'm going to pull up what we already did. So already in Chapter 8 on Monday, March 30th video, we started the concept of patterns of organization, which I will review with you in just a minute. But we did go through A, B, and C, basically the entire front side. We did the text sheet along with several other additional practices in the text. So we already did A, B, and C on your text sheet, which means we also went through all of the vocabulary for Chapter 8. So we went through all of these vocabulary terms from the article on the story where the young men were using different kinds of substitutes to grow their muscles, and it talked about body obsession disorder. The article is called Dangerously Strong. So that's where the first set of readings come from. And then the second set of readings come from the reading about Bethany Hamilton, a surfer who her arm was taken by a shark, and despite that, she continued to swim and surf. And again, this is kind of like one of those stories where I read this and I'm like, oh, wow. And I have people in my life or students or whoever, and sometimes even myself, I'm like, oh, no, I have a little headache. I'm not going to do that today. And Bethany's like, my arm's ripped off. I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to go ahead and keep surfing. Or, I don't know how many of you watched The Tiger King, but that woman in the documentary had her arm ripped off by a tiger, and then 5 days later she was back at work. Y'all, come on. Some courageous people out there. Anyway, getting off topic. There's the vocabulary words for the Chapter 8. So, as I mentioned in Monday's video, Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz, which is in your Blackboard Chapter 8, right in front of you here on the screen. This is due Friday, April 3rd. So this coming Friday, April 3rd, I've already had, I think, 2 of you submit it. I haven't graded it yet because I'm going to kind of have a extra credit boost in there. So I'm waiting to see if anyone submits that before I grade. So your Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz is due Friday, April 3rd. That's going to help me take week 11 attendance to see who's keeping up with me this week. Okay, so as a reminder, in Chapter 8 in Blackboard, you have your PowerPoint you can review. There's my copy of the completed study guide so that you can use that as you are working on your quiz. The Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz itself is right there, as well as where you would go to drop it. And the Chapter 8 text sheet is right there, and I will have a Dropbox for that soon because that will be coming due soon as well. So, I want to go ahead and review the Chapter 8 concepts of patterns of organization. I'm just going to do that by using my graphic organizer. So if you recall from Monday's video, Chapter 8 is about patterns of organization, meaning authors can organize their writing in multiple ways, but when they do so, they have in mind, ideally, how they can help the reader understand the material. So here are 10 of the most common patterns of organization. Now, this is not to say like an author has to use cause and effect, and that's all they can use in a paragraph, or classification. They can mix and match. They can use a little bit of compare contrast, a little bit of addition. So when you're asked like what's the structure of this particular paragraph, you kind of look to see where is there more proof of? Is there more proof of compare contrast, or is there more proof of listing? And you use those signal words to figure it out. So I'm going to kind of go around the graphic and just review for you real quickly. So when we say patterns of organization, we mean they could spend their time defining an unknown word. So they may use words like means, is, defined as, referred to as well as those other vocabulary clues we've talked about, like dashes, parentheses, to let you know that the author is spending time defining. They could also use compare contrast to show how things are alike and similar, or different and opposite. So they can show both alike and differences. And they may use words like however, similar to, on the other hand, in contrast, and those all let you know that an author is using compare contrast. Cause and effect, the reason something happened and the result. So because, as a result, for this reason, as a consequence, those all let you know that action A happened and therefore action B occurred. So it's kind of that relationship, cause and effect relationship, reasons and results. Classification is when you have a large topic and you break it down into groups or pieces. So I think I used the example like the government. It's a pretty large topic. So it's going to break it down into maybe the types of government, legislative, judicial, executive, maybe the different levels, basically taking something pretty large and putting it into smaller categories so it's more easily discussed. Addition is just what it sounds like, to add extra information. In addition, also, furthermore. Time order. This is an order, like shows the question when. When did something happen? First, next, second, third, September, 1982, whatever the case is. Process, how did something happen? So it's kind of like a directions, a manual trying to walk you through. Now you'll see they have very similar signal words, so you have to ask, is it telling me when or is it telling me how? And then spatial is where, left, right, up, down, north, south, under, over, telling you where something is located. All right, the last couple here, listing is just what that again sounds like, making a list of items or reasons or examples, whatever it might be. Often you'll see it separated by commas, and they may say things like first, also, another, to let you know that they're listing. And then finally, examples, so show illustrations of a concept. For example, such as. So I'm going to pull up in Chapter 8, we have a patterns of organization practice, and this is where your extra credit is going to kick in. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. It's just a Word document, and when you open it up, you're going to see a couple examples. First, to kind of just again practice this idea. Example 1, there are many reasons I prefer summer to winter. First, warmer weather is more comfortable than the cold. Second, during the summer we have more time to enjoy and soak in the sun versus in the winter. Third, there is more time to enjoy outdoor activities compared to in the winter. So there's actually two things going on here. We are using a list, using first, second, third. And now it's not a typical list where they're like milk, bread, eggs right in a row, but they are listing reasons, but it's just separated by sentences. So that's how I know there's a list going on. Then we are also using compare contrast. They're comparing and contrasting summer to winter. And I know that because we use the words than, comfortable than the cold. We also talk about versus, and we also use the phrase compared to. So those all let me know that we are comparing and contrasting here. Example 2, there were two kinds of fireworks at the show last night. The first was the skyrocketing type, exploding high up in the air and producing the most dramatic effects, as well as oohs and ahs in the audience. The second type, Roman candles, shot up separate showers of sparks and colored flames. This is classification. I have a large topic, fireworks, meaning that I could break that down. There's apparently different kinds of fireworks. And I know that I'm classifying because I use the word kinds and I use the word type. Those are my clues to let me know that I'm breaking it down into categories. And then example 3, open communication leads to healthy relationships. This is cause and effect. The word leads, or even the phrase leads to, is a cause effect. Okay, here's where extra credit kicks in. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see I have 10 sentences. Each of them correlates with one of these 10 patterns. So your job is to, and whether you just kind of type your pattern here, or if you just want to pull up an email and number 1 through 10 and then put your answers next to them, whatever works, you're going to read the sentences and then assign which one of these sentences goes with example, which one goes with classification. You're going to use each one just one time. There's 10 sentences, there's 10 structures, and it's allowing you to see kind of how they're used again in context. So look for those signal words and phrases to identify which one of these, and maybe even have your patterns of organization graphic organizer pulled up next to you, or the PowerPoint, so that you can rely on that. So you can have those up with you to help. The other part, if you scroll down a little bit further, is write your own paragraph. Try to incorporate a structure into your own writing. So we've done this in class before, where you had to write your own main idea and you had to write some major and minor details. So I'm asking you to kind of do a similar idea with this. Write your own paragraph, so have a clear main idea, and then use one of these patterns. Doesn't matter which one, but I should be able to identify, like, oh, they're using a lot of words like similar or indifferent, so I know they're comparing and contrasting. Or I know they're using the phrase for example, for instance, so they're using example. So I should be able to kind of pick up on what structure you're using as you write your paragraph. Okay, so the extra credit of that kicks in that if you complete your patterns of organization practice, there's the document, there's the Dropbox. When you submit that, as well as your Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz, which is right in there, you'll get extra credit on the quiz. So submit your patterns of organization and your Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz by this coming Friday, April 3rd, and you'll get extra credit on that vocabulary quiz. So a couple of you already submitted your Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz, so you're good. So all you'll have to do is, if you want that extra credit, go ahead and complete that practice. And that just allows me again to see how we're doing with this concept. All right, and of course I'll boil all that down into an email. Okay, so now we're going to turn our attention back to our textbook for a few minutes, and we're going to look at Part D of our textbook, or of our text sheet rather. So Part D is on the back. It is on page 355 of your book. So I'm going to go there, page 355, and on our text sheet, Part D is on the back. It says, read the on-the-job interview about the coach and consultant Rick Muir. What patterns of organization are used in Rick's response to question 1? And explain your response by listing the key terms that correspond with the identified patterns. So while I encourage you to, especially if you're interested in this, read the whole article. For our purpose right now, we're only going to focus on this first paragraph. So as I read it, I want you to be thinking, which one of our 10 structures do you see proof of here? And then I'll talk about it when I'm done. What is your career and how did you become interested in coaching? For 12 years, I was head coach for Team in Training, sponsored by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, to help prepare people for running marathons. During those years, I was able to help others and raise money for an important cause. I also coached track and cross country at Worcester State College in Massachusetts. I am now an independent consultant and coach for many organizations and individuals. I've always been a runner, and I carried the Olympic torch in St. Louis in 2004. A life-changing event occurred when my mother died of leukemia, and I made a promise to her that I would do something significant with my life to make her proud and to help others. Okay, so as I read, hopefully you were thinking and maybe looking at your structures to see which one you saw proof of, but and I'm going to give you a second, try to think about it. There is proof of time order here. There's proof of time order. And I'm going to highlight where I know that. 12 years. During. 2004. So those are examples that he's kind of walking us through different points of time. So I know that time order is my structure, and I know that because he uses the words during, He uses the phrase 12 years. He uses the year 2004. All of those are ways that I know he is using time order. Okay. He also uses, he says I am now, which is also an indication of time. So that's how I know, again, like how a structure is integrated in. I look for those different phrases and key signal words that lets me know how an author is organizing their writing. So that is part D, using that little bit of that interview practice. Okay, now we're going to focus on part E. So I am going to do part 1 with you. So you do not put the answers for part 1 right here, because as usual, you are going to do 2 or 3 on your own. So I will do part 1 with you as a practice. You are not filling these out on your sheet, but you will do practice 2 or 3 as part of part E. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, and we'll answer the questions together as practice again. In soccer, each player has a specific role in helping the team score goals. First, there are forwards, also known as attackers and strikers. They play nearest to the other team's goal and are responsible for making the most goals. Most teams have 1 to 3 forwards. The center forward is the principal goal scorer of the team. The wingers are stationed near the touchlines. Wingers must try to beat defenders from the other team. Defenders or backs are the players responsible for providing support to the goalkeeper and keeping the other team from scoring. The center backs or central defenders have the job of stopping the opposing team's strikers. One of these center backs is the sweeper, who sweeps up the ball if the opponent breaks through the team's defense. The fullbacks prevent the opposing players from getting the ball into the penalty area, and they support other positions. There are also various types of midfielders who play between the strikers and defenders. Their main job is to keep possession of the ball from the opposing team's players. All right. So hopefully, as I read, you saw, and very obviously, that there are bold-faced words, which should kind of point out definition. That's often when authors will use that, is when they're trying to show meanings of words. So question 1, what's the topic of this selection? Some of you might jump to soccer, but if you look, what they're really talking about are soccer positions. So they are talking about soccer positions. Question 2 wants to know what sentence is the main idea. Even if I don't have to look back at the paragraph, if I look at the options, I know it's talking about soccer positions. Well, B, C, and D talk about specific positions. A is the only one that kind of just mentions, all right, each player has their own role. What role do they play? Well, the rest of the paragraph answers that. So that's my answer for number 2. Number 3, according to the passage, what are backs? If I just kind of flip back to find out where they talk about backs. It says so right here. They are responsible for providing support to the goalkeeper and keeping the other team from scoring. So if I look back at my options, it has it basically word for word right there in D. Number 4, what's the relationship between this sentence? Defenders or backs are the players responsible. So basically the sentence we just read. That is just defining. It's a definition, what a defender or back is. And I know because it has the word, and then it says are, meaning, hey, I'm going to tell you exactly what this word means. And then number 5, what's the overall pattern? I've already alluded to this. The whole thing is defining. So for part E, you are going to choose either practice 2 on recreational therapists or practice 3 on different forms of exercise. So that is what you're doing on the back of the text sheet. Again, please make sure I know which one you're doing. Even if you come down here and type 2 or you type 3 or you highlight, just so I know, because sometimes I have to take a guess which one you're doing based on the answers you've given. So just make sure I know which one is completed. And that will complete the Chapter 8 text sheet. Chapter 8 text sheet will be due Monday, April 6th. Monday, April 6th. And I will have a Dropbox ready for you here, down here, to put your Chapter 8 text sheet. So that is due Monday, April 6th. So that starts to wrap up Chapter 8. So again, as a recap, your Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz is due Friday, April 3rd. If you would like extra credit on that, you're going to fill out and practice the patterns organization practice, and I'll give you a couple extra credit points towards your Chapter 8 quiz, as well as feedback on how you're doing. Those 2 are due Friday, April 3rd. Due Monday, April 6th is your Chapter 8 text sheet, which we started Monday the 30th. We finished today. That is due Monday, April 6th. Just as a reminder, because I am kind of trying to keep up with it every other day or so with my your mastery skills, we are in week 11. Y'all, mastery skills are due super soon, week 14. You need to have all 9 of these done. Some of you only have a couple done at this point. So I have supporting details video, patterns of organization video, drawing conclusions video, implied main idea video. All of those are in there. I will soon be opening up a critical thinking one because we are going to start talking about that more in the next coming chapter, chapters 9 and 10. So I'm going to open that one up and I will have a video posted for that soon. So I know some of your mastery skills scores were not doing great, but then I noticed as soon as I put a couple of the videos out there, it helped boost your overall score. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Just keep up with that. Make sure that you're working on that because those are due coming in week 14 and we're in week 11. So it's real soon. The last thing I wanted to remind you of is your final project. Your final project is still due. Down here at the bottom of course content, there it is. Here's the revised directions. You're going to open that up. You guys already started, some of you already started it. You showed me before we left for break. So recall, nothing has really changed in part 1. Or part 2, I will be sending you your original strengths and weaknesses paper, so you can use that as you create your new list of strengths and weaknesses for part 1. Nothing has changed with part 2 other than the point value. You're still choosing 2 terms from each chapter for a total of 20 words. We've now gone through 8 chapters, so you could be working up to that point. You're creating an original sentence and then a synonym, visual, or example of each term. Part 3 has changed significantly, you and the point value. You're only picking one scholarly article. And remember, I have a digital library video in your course content so that you can remember how to get there. I'll pull it out and post it again a couple different places so you can find it. But you are going to find one scholarly article and you're basically just going to tell me, why do you need to know about it? Why is it important to use and know how to find and read these scholarly articles? That's about a paragraph long. Part 4, it's pretty much the same. You're going to talk about a strategy you've used this semester and how it's helped you. Part 5, you're going to choose one graded test or quiz. I would recommend using one from the first part of the semester, and it's only one paragraph now. So you see a lot of the point values have changed, a lot of the writing has condensed, and it's only worth 30 points now where it was 50 before, so it's worth a little less, so it's not quite as much like a big part of your grade. So please be working on that as well. I know some of you would already did parts of this previous. Send things to me, send questions to me, send drafts to me, whatever you need to kind of make sure that you're feeling comfortable. Okay, that is about it for today. I hope you all are doing well. Reach out if you need anything, and I will talk to you later.